Hello everyone. I have some important news regarding the data center here in Burlington. As to the data center that's being built on Self-Service Road, where the old Mother Tucker's buffet used to be, we had a delegation yesterday at City Hall that discussed the important facts. The first and foremost being that this is not an AI data center. It is a typical co-location and enterprise data center. Harmful AI data centers like we see in the US with the big hyperscale facilities are already basically illegal in Halton due to a few different regulations, specifically our wastewater regulations and our once-through cooling regulations. This takes the most harmful type of data centers off the table. We heard from experts yesterday, and they recommended restricting the size of facilities based on their power draw. I am in agreement with them on that basis. I think we need to look at grid impact will be the most harmful part of any data center coming to Burlington. And by harmful, I just mean that if it requires more electricity, it will use more resources elsewhere, because Burlington's ability to generate electricity only accounts for 9 megawatts. It's not very large. It's mostly based on solar panels here. Everything else is imported from Hydro One, the Ontario grid. So we get 50% of our power from nuclear, about 25% of our power from hydroelectric, and then 10% from renewables, and the remaining is usually buffered by oil or gas power plants. We have a very minimal carbon footprint on our power system here. So the only concern I would have is expanding that generation capacity beyond what our renewables and our carbon-free power sources are able to produce. That would increase, obviously, carbon emissions, which is no good, no bueno, as they say. But that's an issue for the next project, as this project has quite a reasonable power draw. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that we cannot be designing policy based around the title of a business. We should instead be looking at the outcomes that the business provides, either positive or negative, for the community, and making our zoning laws accordingly. So when we have this data center that meets all the criteria of the zoning laws and doesn't have any special provisions, it goes right to the planning department. Now, citizens or residents aren't usually advised that these projects are occurring, even if they're nearby, because the zoning is already there. So it's already an appropriate project. They've already pre-screened the outcomes. So why have zoning laws if we're just going to invalidate them with other legislation? It wasn't a surprise project. It wasn't rushed. They went through a lot of very careful preparation. They designed the entire facility. They've set up acoustic trials. They've had to review with Environment Canada and Conservation Halton and several other regulatory bodies. So this is not a rush project. It's just that it was dropped in our laps in a very irresponsible way. Lisa Kearns decided to announce that we had a giant AI data center coming to the city, and we needed to take urgent action to protect our residents from the horror stories we see in the United States. If she had taken the same amount of time that she took to record that video panicking the entire community, she could have accessed the planning department documents and seen the intent letter that would, it's something along the lines of the intended use letter or the intended use documentation, but it specifically states that there's no AI component to this center and that it's intended to be used as a co-location and enterprise facility. So, I mean, she keeps saying that we wouldn't even be talking about this if it weren't for her, and maybe she's right about that. Maybe we wouldn't be having this discussion, and maybe it is important that we are having this discussion. But if she had taken the 5 extra minutes to read the intent of use documentation, we wouldn't have this great AI panic. And look, I'm no big fan of having AI jammed down my throat every time I boot up my computer or sign up for a new product or listen to an ad on the radio about how great their services are now, including AI. I get it. We're all tired of that, but we can't let it make us afraid of development of the future. And in this specific case, we're not even talking about development of the future of AI. We're just talking about a data center. And I mean, it will be a useful facility. It will pay the same tax as roughly 200 to 300 homes. And that's something that is sorely needed. We need investment. We need commercial investment in our city. And we can't be scaring it away with ridiculous moratoriums. And that brings me to my final point. Yesterday, myself and some other technology experts delegated to council regarding this data center and regulations for data centers in the future. And the result that we came up with was that the moratorium for 1 year on data centers was voted down. And instead, it was agreed on that we didn't need that much time to make up reasonable regulations to govern data centers. We already have a very good understanding of what these data centers will require from us, so there's no real need to panic about it. We have the time to make educated bylaws about this, and I was quite surprised and pleased with how reasonable the rest of council received this argument. We had the better argument and we won the day, and I'm very glad that we did, because I think otherwise it would have set a very bad precedent. And I believe also they were attempting to have their moratorium apply retroactively to the current project. Now, I'm not sure that it was written into the legislation or if they had other plans for it after. I'm not sure if the writers of the legislation planned that, or if it was just some of the other delegates speaking on behalf of the other side of this argument. That's irrelevant. The point is we prevented any issues, because that would have been a major legal issue if we had tried to prevent this already pre-screened project that's gone through our planning department in Burlington from happening. That would open us up to some very, very bad legal liability. So, to sum it all up, we should be making regulations that are based on the outcome of the businesses that are applied to our community, not the titles of the businesses that are applied to our community. So I would just say for everyone, keeping in mind when you hear things, make sure that you check the data, make sure that you check the facts before you come out with your latest outrage video, because it can be very harmful and it can work up people into a froth, and it can detract from other agenda items that are extremely important that need to be done instead. There's a lot of things on the docket here in Burlington, and we can't afford to be wasting time on flights of fancy. Anyway, that's my update.